And what we want to try and get out of today is, like I say, it's a smaller audience, so we want you to be as interactive as possible. Please do ask some questions. Please do, interact with us. Please do, fire away those questions at Olivia. What we wanted to get out of today was there's been some very recent, quite major changes for unpaid carers. So there's some legislative changes that we want to introduce to you as a group. We want to go through those, we want to give you the most up-to-date information about that. Then we're going to have a discussion around that. We're going to ask, again, some questions around what is an unpaid carer? Do you know an unpaid carer? Are you guys unpaid carers? Without even realising it. And then last but not least, Olivia's then going to present what we feel is a cost-effective solution and something for you guys to really take away, learn from, and maybe take into your business. So yeah, I know we might have some people still coming in. That's absolutely fine. As we always say with Lunch and Learns as well, please feel free. If you've got a cup of tea, don't be frightened to drop it in the chat. If you've got something really nice that you want to eat, I can see Peter's got an extravagant Costa there. There's a plug for Costa. Other coffee brands are available. Is that right, Peter?
There is. You can have whatever you want. Nero, Costa, Pete's specialities. I'll Irish it up for you.
Okay, what have you gone for, Peter? I'm very nosy now. Now I can see that nice big drink. What have we gone for?
Just a bog standard vanilla.
Vanilla latte?
Yeah, I was deprived.
Same as my wife.
Yeah, I was in the Netherlands last week. I could not find a Starbucks or a Costa or a Nero for love nor money.
Oh, poor you. It's modern day problems, I'm going to say that one is, Peter, I'm afraid. Yeah, okay.
I know, it was going dry.
But no, good afternoon. I think we're going to get over to you, Olivia. I think we're all ready. General housekeeping rules. What we ask is keep the background noise to a minimum. So if you don't mind, if you can mute if you're not talking. Any questions, feel free to pop in the chat or do the raise hand feature. As always, we'll have a dedicated kind of time at the end. But if there's a real burning question you think I want to ask that now, please put it on there and we can come to you. And yeah, let's give Olivia the floor and let's give her that time and space she deserves. So welcome, Olivia.
Thank you very much, Craig, and hello everyone. It's lovely to meet you all. I am Olivia. I'm one of the wellbeing coaches at People Plus, and this is kind of just a session around how we can support unpaid carers in the workplace and also just about wellbeing in the workplace as well, and kind of what offerings I suppose you could provide for your employees. So there are some statistics on the screen, quite high statistics as well. So 1 in 7 of the UK workforce are juggling work and caring, and this actually increases to 1 in 4 for people working within the NHS. Around 12,000 people become unpaid carers every single day in the UK, and that's the equivalent of 4.3 million people every year. 600 people quit work to look after older and disabled relatives every day. And the change in nature of unpaid care means that we obviously need a flexible and dynamic policy and practices to identify and support unpaid carers and diversity of their experiences. So these statistics clearly show the high percentage of individuals that are unpaid carers. These figures, of course, only reflect those who have identified as unpaid carers. Some people might not even realise they're unpaid carers. They might not even acknowledge themselves as unpaid carers. And this was me quite a few months ago. I was one of them people who was absolutely unaware of the term. I had no kind of clue what an unpaid carer was, what it entailed, and then it kind of just, I was more aware of the kind of definitions and how I related to it an awful lot. So again, a lot of people don't identify as an unpaid carer. So these stats, the chances are probably a lot higher when it comes down to it. So what is an unpaid carer? The Carers Trust defines an unpaid carer as someone who cares unpaid for a friend, a family member who, due to illness, disability, a mental health problem, or even an addiction, cannot cope without their support. When it comes to caring for someone, it could literally be a few hours a week. It could be 24 hours a day. It could be, a few hours every single day. You could live with them. You could live miles away for them and support them remotely, which sounds, obviously, some people might think, how can you care for someone remotely? But the support, it doesn't just have to be things like personal care, you know, helping someone wash and dress themselves. It can be things like just offering company or support, emotional support as well. But of course, all the other little things like, you know, food shopping, picking up or prescriptions, doing a little bit of housework. And this is stuff that we probably do a lot of the time without even thinking. If we've got maybe elderly parents or family members with certain conditions or diagnoses, and we do it second nature, you know, taking them to appointments and things like that. But this in category is the term of an unpaid carer. Doesn't have to be a long-term thing. It can be something that's temporary. You know, if someone's maybe had an accident or a diagnosis, you could be a temporary unpaid carer, or it could be a long-term kind of thing.
Olivia, sorry, I had a question for you.
Yes.
What was, you said there was a moment for you when you realised you was an unpaid carer.
Yeah.
What was that penny drop moment? How did you find that out? Was it a line manager, or did you do a bit of research yourself?
So one of my colleagues, Barbara, who unfortunately can't be with us today, she is, funnily enough, having to take emergency carers leave. And because of she's an unpaid carer and has been for some time, so she's very, very confident and very comfortable with the term and of course what it entails. And the odd times I'd say, oh, I've just got to, you know, run my mum to this appointment, I've got to do this, and I'm taking the time off. And I remember she was like, you do realise you're not, and I was going, no, I'm not, because I only do it every now and then. I only have to do things every so often, and it was only that she was like, no, that's fine. It doesn't matter. You don't have to do it every single day. I don't have to be, you know, helping my mum take a shower or anything like that. I still had to take her to these appointments. I still had to do these things with her or help her, you know, when it comes down to these things. And that's when she was like, yeah, that's an unpaid carer. So she was like, right. And ever since then, I've been like, right, I am. So we've ran with that, and now I've looked into it a lot more, and you know, I like raising awareness of it because I was one of them people who was oblivious, I suppose. I was so unaware of kind of how impactful it is and what's out there for us, the support out there. So yeah, it was my co-worker, grateful for her, who actually said you're an unpaid carer.
I think this really resonates with me actually, because a couple of years ago my husband was off work, and it was only for sort of 3 months with stress and anxiety. He was physically fine. He was, you know, he obviously can walk about and do stuff, but because he was going through that stress and anxiety, he couldn't even do stuff around the house like walking the dogs or having a conversation with his daughter, or, you know, any of the general housekeeping. And that fell down on me, who obviously works full time, to then have to pick up the entire emotional strain of the whole household, plus the day-to-day chores.
Yeah.
And I never did think that I was an unpaid carer as such, but actually, looking back at it, I probably was, because I just felt the whole weight of everything on my shoulders.
And I think, as I said, like, it doesn't have to be a long-term thing, but people think if it's temporary, then you don't have to kind of pick up on it or act not, because it's going to be over. But you don't see, and I'm quite an open person. My mum was diagnosed with breast cancer, and that was my life-changing kind of unpaid carer experience.
Your story.
And that was something that it happened suddenly, come on us, and the same as you, Liz. I live with me mum, and it's just us two, and I had to, like, you don't realise how much the other person does when you're doing all of that. And again, it hopefully, fingers crossed, it's something that's temporary for us, but it comes with a lot more as well. It doesn't just stop there, because there's ongoing, like, appointments, and so it's still there, but again, it can completely vary depending on each person, I suppose. So, of course, there's a new piece of legislation that is coming into force on the 6th of April, to be precise, by which time the employers need to be prepared to deliver changes to the way that they offer support to all unpaid carers in their workforce, including all employers entitling unpaid carers to take up to 1 week of unpaid leave. So this is a new piece of legislation that all employers need to be aware of, and they need to be able to accommodate these changes within the workplace. There's of course legislation already when it comes to unpaid carers in the workplace, and they have to be adhered to already. And these are things like, you know, the right for time off when it comes to dealing with emergencies or that involve our dependents, parental leave, flexible working requests, protection from discrimination as well. So carers also have the right to have an assessment, but that is done through local councils. When it comes to flexible working, it can be things like, you know, if they need to work from home, if they need to start and finish earlier or later, changing shift patterns, reducing your hours of work, if it comes to accommodating, you know, your caring needs. They also have the statutory right to take unpaid time off to deal with emergencies involving these dependents, and this length of time ideally needs to be agreed with your employer. Usually it can just be a day, 2 days, but it can be up to a week with the new legislation. It can be taken flexibly. You don't have to take it all at once. It can be a day here and there, but you want to kind of give your employer notice. It doesn't mean that you have to provide, you know, 4 months notice, because emergencies happen, things happen, appointments come 2 weeks before. So we obviously want to just try and give them as much notice as we possibly can. And this is obviously to try and give the business chance to, you know, put plans in place, have contingency plans in case they're off. Can someone pick up their work? Do we need to contact people? A little bit of a handover. In an ideal world, it would be planned in advance. So, you know, these things we could plan for, but of course, emergencies do arise. It's not plain sailing, especially if you are an unpaid carer. So it's always ideal to be aware of carers within the organisation or your business, and just have a just in case. But this is also going to help when it comes to, you know, employee resilience and workplace resilience as well. So to empower is to make someone stronger and more confident, especially in controlling their life and claiming their rights. So, of course, it's a nice, uplifting word. I think it's got obviously positive associations with it. And just to throw out there, I'm not asking anybody to share their thoughts, but if you could think of a time of when you felt empowered, or if you've empowered somebody else, and it doesn't have to be in a caring term, it can just be in general. And again, just a little bit of a food for thought, so people can have a little think about that. So caring can have positive and rewarding aspects. There are lots of reasons why caring unpaid carers can need support too. A lot of the time, being an unpaid carer, it's not through choice, and becoming an unpaid carer isn't through choice either. It can cause massive life changes, even down to, you know, social life, financial changes, or even lifestyle changes too. That can obviously cause to them people need and support with their caring role. You know, they might need a break, they might be heading for burnout, they might have problems with the finances or their emotional well-being. So obviously we have devised our Be Empowered course, and it is an online course for carers by carers, and it can basically offer all of the support of what I've just mentioned. It's delivered using an online learning platform called Learning Plus. It's accessible 24/7 with a kind of complete at your own pace structure. And of course, when it comes down to being an unpaid carer or rolling this out to unpaid carers, we want it to be as accessible for them as possible. So flexibility is key. It's not just aimed at unpaid carers, but we also want to, you know, support colleagues when it comes down to getting a better understanding of, you know, if they work with people who are unpaid carers. It just provides information, insight to roles, responsibilities that we kind of face every single day. It provides strategies to support building resilience and confidence, provides carers with vital information on the rights and the types of support available, and it identifies how to set boundaries and communicate with services so that you feel heard. There are also some tips for self-care and self-advocacy. And then, of course, when it comes down to being empowered for managers, it's about recognising who is a carer and why we should identify them in the workplace. Explore benefits of employing carers and the positives a manager support can bring to the workplace. It also explains, how we can provide practical support, understanding statutory rights, supporting a culture of inclusion within the workplace, but also facilitating these conversations. If it's something that we're not familiar with or we're not used to, it's kind of given us a little bit of an idea of how we can do that successfully and obviously empathetically. There are a number of modules on the screen that you can have a little read of, and we basically provide a variety of information. We can also use this as a way of reference or signposting. And of course, when it comes down to the managers modules, this is all about facilitating these conversations and making them more aware of, legislation and how best they can support employees or individuals. There is a limited time offer on for £10 per person for this course, and if you are open to the idea, then we are able to offer a free demonstration. I have got a video of a demo. I will have a little go at showing you that. Fingers crossed it works, because technology is great, but it can also be a pain in the bum.
Good luck.
Can everybody see my screen okay?
Yeah, can see it all good.
Fabulous. Right, I'm going to play. Let me know. I've got a feeling the sound won't work because I haven't included some computer sound, but worth a try.
Are we meant to be hearing something here, Olivia?
It's only like a little bit of background music. If you don't,
we
don't
can't
feel
hear
too
it.
uncomfortable with the silence.
It might be better to send that out to everybody, actually.
Okay, I'll copy that and I'll drop it in the chat.
I'd be really interested, actually, to find out, we talk about the sort of one in 7. Do the people on the call, and I don't want to sort of put anybody on the spot, but do people sort of capture those who are unpaid carers? Do we track it? Do you know who they are within your teams?
Anyone willing to share? And don't worry if not.
I'd be happy to share.
Oh, thank you. Okay, it's Abby. Sorry, I can see
Oh,
you,
it's
Abby. There.
Abby.
Yeah. Hi, Abby.
At the moment, it's not something that we capture as standard as a sort of mandatory question in our onboarding. We tend to capture that sort of data around our employee engagement survey, which is anonymised. So we'll have an idea of how many people will declare in the business, and we have pretty good response rates to the survey, but we have an idea of how many people in the business, but it would be down, it's a line manager sort of process to have that. We do have, already, I was just checking our policies with the change, and we have something in place that's already, supportive of that, regardless of the change. But yeah, it would be down to a line manager. It's not, we wouldn't have that individual data.
And just a question on that. So it's almost like you said, a line manager's discretion, but is there any training for that line manager at the moment, or is there any support or guidance that you're aware of?
There wouldn't be a specific, here's some training around our, leave or policy, but we have an overarching line or program for our managers that covers everything from people to process and and all of it in between. So again, not specific.
Thank you, Abby. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else? Does anyone record this? Does anyone not record it? And feel free. It's an open space. We won't judge.
Yeah,
anyone.
Peter says not at this point.
Yeah.
So does that mean that's something for consideration in the future, Peter?
Yeah, it is. It's as Abby was saying, it's on. We don't currently do it, but it is something that we are thinking of doing. But we're not sure at what stage to capture it at.
I mean, do people feel? Sorry, I'm going to come to you in a sec with that hand up, Nikesh. But do people on the call feel that it's something that needs more education around and information around? Because, like I say, you know, Olivia herself has admitted she wasn't even to know she was an unpaid carer. I think we've probably all got examples on the call of colleagues that may be in the same, or yourself. So, going to come to you now, Nikesh. But does everyone else feel that this is something that probably needs a bit more information and education on, I suppose, is the question. So feel free to pop that in the chat. Well, we've got a thumbs up. Okay, Nikesh, sorry, with your hand up there, waiting patiently. Go for it.
No, thank you, Craig. Yeah, Meenakshi here from IES. And so thank you for this very interesting presentation. And I think the fact that you mentioned that we don't think of ourselves as unpaid carers was really important, because I mean, I'm a mother, I work at IES. I think of myself as a working mother, but I don't think of myself as an unpaid carer, and what that means for my rights as a worker. So I think there is definitely, to respond to Craig's question, area for education and making people aware that this is really about their rights at work, and not just about your identity. I don't think I can think of myself as an unpaid carer of my daughter. I would always be her mother. But as an employee, this allows me to claim rights. And I think that shift in education is really important. And to just respond to the other question on, do we collect this data? I don't think we do. And I mean, I'm having a discussion with our HR tomorrow, so I'm happy to have this chat with them. But I wanted to ask how you envisage using this data. So if an organization were to collect this data proactively, how would they use it to really support employees? Because ultimately it's the employee's right to ask for leave if and when they want it. And when the leave request comes, yes, an organization can respond by supporting. But if we're saying, do you collect data on whether people are unpaid carers, how would we collect this and use it for people to trust that they would share this? Just wondered if people had experience of use. Thank you.
I'm happy to.
I was going to tag you in anyway, Laura. Yeah, this is something we've just started to really focus on, hasn't it, as an organisation ourselves?
Yeah, sure. I think what we're trying to do here is highlight all of the different groups. I guess we call them disadvantaged groups, but there can be obviously ex-offenders, unpaid carers, etc. Bring their challenges to the forefront for employees to consider. How does that impact their business? So I'm sure you mentioned before that, there is a significant amount of people within organisations, more than you think, 1 in 7, 1 in 3 within the NHS that is an unpaid carer. And I think just like you would support perhaps the inclusivity and diversity of your ex-offender workforce, of your veteran workforce, it's to consider it in the same vein. So what we did in People Plus was we actually went out to our whole organisation to sort of say, did you know this is what an unpaid carer is? And we would like to pull a group together who can be a stakeholder support group that helps to shape what we as an organisation can do. What are the challenges within our organisation that unpaid carers within our organisation are facing? And how do we look to support that? So actually it's been very self-driven. So we have a stakeholder group, we have feedback about what are the things that would be important to them. We made some adjustments actually before the legislation came in terms of additional days off for those who are unpaid carers, flexible support, the things that you would normally find, but actually to sort of make it okay to say, I am an unpaid carer, yes, I can ask for this help. And for people who find themselves in the situation that require help, because there are a lot of people in our organisation that say, thank you, and I know that's an option, but I'm okay, I can cope, and it's working well. But actually just recognising that there is that option is important. So I think it's something to consider in part of your multitude of different demographics you support. But firstly, it's to understand how prevalent is the support for it, and get your organisation to voice, I guess, what they would like to do with it would be my suggestions.
And this very much feeds into the retention strategy as well, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
it's about ensuring that people feel valued within the workplace. Olivia, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but isn't there a statistic about how many people actually leave work or fall out of employment due to caring responsibilities? You know,
Yeah.
and how many could we have kept into work just by identifying those individuals and putting a support strategy in place for them?
Yeah, so obviously I'll just flip back to the statistics.
There you go.
Page
Yeah,
anyway.
600.
Yeah, so 600 people quit work every single day, and 12,000 become unpaid carers every day. That's every single day in the UK. Like, they're massive numbers. So if these things are happening and the places of work aren't equipped for it, then it's going to eventually lead to the point where you need that flexibility. You need to offer this your loved one or your friends or that support. And if you haven't got kind of a workplace that can allow you that, you're going to struggle. So it's definitely something that is kind of needed. Especially, you need the flexibility, definitely, as an unpaid carer.
Right. Thanks, Olivia. Olivia, I had a question on one of those modules. Sorry, I noticed.
Yeah, come on.
I just wanted to know a bit more around carer guilt. So what kind of, what would that cover, and what does that mean to us as a group, really?
So carers guilt is very common, and we run an internal focus group, and we have this discussion quite regularly, and we have new people hopping on, and it's purely about you're dedicating so much time to these people, and you're pouring out your own glass, and that's completely understandable. But it's not like it's normal for us to feel a little bit burnt out, a little bit drained. But we don't blame these people for it. But that's kind of the reasoning behind why we're feeling this way. And people come onto these focus groups, and that they moan about their responsibilities and things like that, and that's completely normal, and it's not. But then people feel the guilt, because they're lucky to have these people, and they're lucky to be in the position that they are, whether or not they realise to be caring for these people. So it's all about acknowledging, we might be doing this involuntary, like we might be doing this not because we want to, because we have to, but we're still doing it purely because it's compulsory. We have to do it for this person because we love them, or we want to give them the best kind of empowerment or advocacy as they possibly can. So carer's guilt is completely normal to feel and doubt, think.
It's something
grieve, I suppose.
It's something that some of our carers hub colleagues deal with quite a lot. So we run the community contract in the Gloucestershire Council region, so we have hundreds of carers that are requiring our help and support, and actually a lot of it's signposting. So back to the original question about what can we do as an employer, and that's I guess why we've put this package together and this e-learning program to sort of help people understand what is there available that's actually already out there in the support network they can tap into, because there is actually a lot, and actually just signposting and ensuring that people are aware of it is a massive leap forward that employers can take, especially because each different local authority does it differently. So Gloucestershire have a commissioned carer service that one organisation runs, and they therefore signpost, but different locations across the country do it differently. So I think it's in understanding what's available in your area, but this gives a really kind of good option of what things are at people's disposal.
Yeah, and Joe, thank you, Joe. You just popped a really lovely comment in the chat, and I think that's really useful as well, because I've experienced that myself as a colleague. So the last place I worked at, there was a colleague of mine that would leave the office every day at 5 to 4. And he'd never come to any after work drinks. They'd never come to any kind of social event. It was 3:55. He would start early. It wasn't a question of work ethic or getting these working hours in, but 3:55 every day, laptop down, bye. And then eventually it took him 6-7 months to say to us, I'm an unpaid carer, I have to go home I live with my mum, I look after my mom and I have to be there for 4 o'clock to give her, you know, X, Y, and Z. So, but for us, as you know, we were probably guilty of thinking he was being a bit rude or a little bit antisocial, and you know, these kind of things. But that wasn't the case. He just had to be there 4 o'clock every night. He was that main carer. So yeah, I think education for colleagues as well. It's not just line managers, is it, or people that have that responsibility. I think the wider group as well. Is there anything else you wanted to share on that, Joe? Or happy for you if it's just a chat comment? That's cool. I don't need to put you on the spot.
Yeah, I was just trying to succinctly put it as best as possible during the conversations that were on a roll. But yeah, I think in our remit we have a very healthy company sick pay system. So we pay up to 2 years full pay. So we have both challenges where obviously absence management is at the forefront of our business operationally. I know the HR leadership teams are busy with that, but there is a balance, because I know the point Laura was making, we've seen, especially at our manufacturing site in Oxford, the councils are so different with how they support carers. So I definitely have had experience in my previous role where, you know, some people are coping with their caring responsibilities and others have had to take 9 months to get their parent into a care home or assisted living, and there isn't any other option but for them to be kind of out of work, because our manufacturing systems and just how our labour constraints don't necessarily support it. So it's kind of understanding that hybrid of how we could become better, but we're never going to be the perfect business case. So
yeah,
and
it's difficult. Okay, go on, Laura. Sorry.
I was just going to say, I think on your point, Joe, around understanding the signs, I think there's both a proactive and then the reactive approach, isn't it? So where we are identifying there are challenges, is that something that is added to the points to ask a question about? What is your home situation? But equally then, how do we proactively recognise that this is a place you can go to understand what the organisation is able to flex with to support, you know, your requirements?
Yeah, and I think we've got such an aging workforce that actually the reality is we will without it being I mean, care is obviously diverse spectrum, but the likelihood is we'll see it a lot more frequently in our production workers especially. So yeah, definitely interesting subject for us to improve.
I was just going to say, me and Olivia, in the research for this, we spoke about, didn't we, Olivia, around you know, Joe's line of work. You may not have that flexibility. You know, if you're, like, say, if you're on a production line or you've got to produce X amount per month, that it's Olivia and a colleague. Quite fortunate, you live in that aspect that you can, like, say, tag each other in. Doesn't really matter if you work 5 till 9 and your colleague works, you know, 7 till 4 kind of thing. So it must be difficult, Joe, in that environment, like I say, where you've got, I don't know, really rigid structure that you need those staff to be operating in.
And it's the two different kind of cultures or workforces within our business, because everybody in the staff entities, we of course have that flexibility. And I know myself, if I needed to start or finish later, I wouldn't have to go through the rigidness of a flexible working agreement or anything like that. So naturally, I think there's probably a lot more cases than we recognise. But yeah, definitely in the manufacturing environments, it'd be very difficult for the management teams to support in it. But yeah, there's definitely improvements that we want to look into. So yeah, good content today. It's been great. Thank you.
No, thank you. Nikesh, got your hand up again. We've got some comment.
Yeah, no, it ties into what you just actually already raised on my behalf, was the whole challenge of offering this kind of support to people who are in frontline roles or in shift work. I mean, in our research with employers, we find that that's where the flexible working and support typically tends to break down. So it was great to hear Joe's experience. But yeah, I also wondered if there's any other research or anyone else's experience around how they can support unpaid carers who are in those difficult and time-bound roles.
Yeah, difficult. Olivia, any comment on that? Because I know that's very difficult to put you on the spot, but where it's not as flexible as like, say, an office environment or work from home.
I do think, and I know we mentioned it briefly when we spoke earlier, when it comes down to kind of, you know, if you are an office worker and things like that, I'm not saying it's an easier kind of way, but you can have that flexibility, especially if you're managing your own calendars and things like that. I do think it's a lot harder, and trying to trying to plan for something that you don't know if it's going to come or when it's going to come can seem virtually impossible, I suppose. But I think when organisations, if they're aware of someone who, you know, is a carer, and even if there's a pattern, you know, if there's appointments like certain days of the month, or, you know, they have certain days where they have to go somewhere else, then maybe just kind of being aware of that. I think it's all just about kind of, you know, trying to zone in on, you know, either patterns or what their needs are. Laura?
Yeah, I was just going to add, I think there's two key points. One is to help them understand and recognise and talk about it, and make sure that they know that they can say, I am an unpaid carer. The second one is ask them, because there are lots and lots of ways in where we think we're helping by saying, oh, we'll offer you flexible, we'll give you this, we'll do a job share for you. But actually, I think it's about saying, what would work for you? What do you need? Do you need a week on? Do you need a week off? If there's a number of people, is there the opportunity to do a job share? So I think is it a Monday they need off, to your point, Olivia? So I think that most importantly is help them to understand that you're there to talk about it. And the second bit is, yeah, ask them what would help, what would be their ideal.
I think as well, it's completely personal. Like, not one person's the same in any kind of essence. But I suppose if you're caring for somebody, that it's not going to be the same for everyone. You know, just because somebody may have the same condition doesn't mean every Thursday's going to need to go off. You know, it's completely down to that unpaid carer and their dependent. And again, there could be patterns, there could not be, but it's just about trying to be aware of, you know, what they think their needs might be, or, you know, how they can support them as best they can, and be prepared for the you know, the opportunity if it does arise that they have to take time off. Being as prepared as you possibly can. I know obviously it's harder and kind of, you know, like your factory works and things like that, but just trying to have backup plans, I suppose, and be prepared for that. Yeah.
I think the other one that is really interesting to consider in this group is there will be other roles in other organisations that perhaps allow more flexibility. And I think that, you know, where is the opportunity to lean into your recruitment provider, your or this group, for if you've exhausted all internal opportunities, to say, do you know what, actually we want to support this person. And I think it comes something similar as well to that. When you do have that ageing workforce, how do you actively support somebody to offboard, just like you use a kind of an offboarding approach? Obviously, if your contracts reduce or work changes and you need to move sites from one area to another, you'll kind of use that kind of outplacement type approach. Actually, how could we do that? How could we, you know, work more collaboratively? And I think that's absolutely something this group could help to support with, if there is, you know, people in that situation.
Brilliant. Guys, I'm conscious of time. This is a 45-minute lunch and learn today. So what I wanted to do is just to summarise was, myself and Olivia will 100% get these links out to you, because we do feel this, you know, really good, informative piece of work, really cost effective, and a, you know, quite a simple solution to this, and we'd like it to experience that. But are there any questions? Is there anything we haven't quite covered, or anything you want to ask Olivia? Like I said, no question is a silly question. Or any further comments that you wanted to get to Olivia or any of the team today?
If I don't know the answer, it might be a silly answer though.
We'll see. We'll see. And feel free, like I say, if you want it to be a comment in the chat, that's just as fine, if you don't want to go on mic.
And even if you don't feel comfortable asking, you know, a question now, then by all means you could shoot it privately over to myself or Craig. I'd imagine.
We'll get your email shared with this audience. Yeah. For this. Okay.
Yeah, certainly from my perspective, I'd be really keen to see how the Be Empowered, you know, unpaid carers course lands with your business. You know, if it's something, you know, I would really, you know, value your feedback. You know, to sort of hone it moving forward, really.
Yeah, totally agree. Thank you, Liz. Okay, I'm having a look on the screens. No one's virtual hands are waving at me. That's fine. Okay, so yeah, thank you ever so much for attending. Like I say, a bit more of an intimate audience today. We've kind of selected you because we really wanted you on this call to come on this journey with us, how we can get, you know, this out there and really inform practice. Thank you ever so much, Olivia. Thank you. I know it's not easy.
Thank you for having me.
Come
it's
on
been
in.
really nice to have a gab with you all.
No, thank you. And thanks for sharing your personal lived experience as well, which is never easy.
Oh,
and we do appreciate
anytime.
that.
Very open.
So yeah. And thank you. And
See
thank
ya.
you to everyone who's come on this call.
Have a fantastic week, everyone.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.